This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, the moment everybody's been waiting for.
Couldn't resist.
Happy New Year, by the way. Happy
New Year to you.
Not a Happy New Year for Dolphins fans.
Yeesh.
It's the same old New Year's.
Yeesh.
It's just Groundhog Day. It's just, and by the way, every one of you feels that. Oh, not like Marcel and Cam. These are babies on the beat. They haven't really experienced pain yet. They don't even know what it's like. But people like yourself that have been on the beat for a long time, Perkins that has gone back and forth and been on the beat for a while and had to cover a lot of misery. You guys, even though you're not fans, you're all rooting for way better days, bro. Like,
of course,
you guys are tired of covering this. You don't want to see this anymore. It's like, because I always want to mention this because, and I get it that we have a couple people in the media overall, national, they kind of thrive on this stuff and they love all this kind of stuff. But most media members, especially long-term beat writers that are on the Browns or Detroit, brother, they want them to win. Mm-hmm. It's a hell of a lot more fun to cover winning than asking about all the negativity that's going on. And there's a lot of it.
No doubt about it. And here's something else too. You've heard me mention like the Brady fatigue syndrome, the Chiefs fatigue syndrome. For me, it's like I want to experience as I watch the NFL and analyze it and all that different things from year to year. I don't want to see like the Chiefs always near the top, Brady always a factor, the Dolphins always flopping at the end, the Steelers. Basically, you have to kill them 18 times before they actually get out of the picture. I mean, the damn Steelers, for Christ's sake, they might make the playoffs now. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. I mean, nothing against.
I'm a Kenny Pickett guy, bro. I told everybody he's just young and give him time, and he'll be fine. He had moxie at Pittsburgh, bro.
That's what he's got. He's got a Joe Burrow-like quality to him. Like he looked like shit for 3.5 quarters yesterday, and that game-winning drive he made a couple of throws. That pill he threw down the middle to Steven Sims was just completely ridiculous.
Watch him at Pitt. Same shit. Yeah, watch him at Pitt. The kid was just a playmaker, and they go, oh, the hands. Oh, get out of here, bro. Just the guy can throw the ball. Relax. He can play. He's a smart kid. He's a tough kid, by the way. Had multiple concussions also. Sure. And he's fought through it. So eventually he'll turn out to be a solid player for them. He'll turn around. All right, let's
all that to say that yes, it's very tiresome to be going through this thing.
Yeah, it is. And I know that you guys want them to. It's not you're sitting there rooting for them, but it's better to cover. I mean, when they were 8-3, life was good, bro. It's fun to watch it. You got a guy for a candidate for Coach of the Year, the quarterback's a candidate for MVP of the year. Tyreek Hill's a candidate for MVP of the year, and 5 weeks later, they're no longer candidates for anything anymore.
A lot more fun to write about the possibilities of them getting the top seed as opposed to will they be able to back into the playoffs?
Right, which has been the story of their lives. Whenever they do go to the playoffs, it's about backing in, to the playoffs. It's just bad. All right, so quarterback. First of all, let's get over that hump. The Bridgewater and Skyler performances.
Well, here's the thing, and I know everybody, and I tweeted this. Everybody's going to dump on Bridgewater for the pick six. Absolutely, rightfully so. It's a horrible pass, both physically and the decision where he never saw Doug.
Actually, the worst part was him trying to tackle him. Like, come on, Teddy, bro.
Well, and another one, but
somebody showed Teddy that Marino never tackled anybody. Right. Somebody showed Tua that Marino threw the ball away like thousands and thousands of times right away. Like, plays dead, bam, gone. It hit somebody in the 40th row. Come on.
Bridgewater is a very, very skinny dude. We talk about Tua not having like the physique for the NFL. Bridgewater has the physique to stay in the pocket, throw the ball, and get the hell out of the damn way. So yeah, that was my. Outside of that, I actually thought he did a nice job doing what he was asked to do. And this is where my biggest gripe with the game yesterday is: ask me how much I despised the game plan, which was starts with H, ends with T, and has 9 letters. I mean, for Christ's sake, I get the idea. We've been ragging on him. Don't abandon the running game so quickly. Don't abandon the running game so quickly. Well, yesterday, he stuck with it way too long. And his explanation after the game made me want to puke, where he said we were well aware of New England's defensive touchdowns, and we're trying to guard against that. Well, guess what? The defensive touchdowns, more often than not, are going to come on 3rd down. Not on 1st and 10, where it's a perfect time to throw the ball instead of running it 14 of 17 first downs when Bridgewater was in the game. And it's not like they were like reeling off 5,
they
6
weren't
yards.
killing it. Right.
It was 2 yards, 3 yards, and he just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Like, give the guy a chance. You know, his passer rating before the pick 6 was 119.3. I tell you, I'm going to say that you give that to any quarterback. I mean, that's Pro Bowl stuff. Yeah. So
awesome.
And it's not, and I'm not saying he was lighting it up. I'm just saying he was very efficient, except for that one play, and then he has to leave the game.
It was all manufactured. It was balanced out. There was run. There was pass. There was a nice mix, those 2 drives, actually. And then it got kind of, unbalanced.
Way
too
conservative.
And that's the thing with McDaniel, that, he's still a young play caller and a young coach. And he has some chinks in the armor, unfortunately. And this is part of a first-year coach, unfortunately. I'd love to see a first-year coach that's just fantastic and takes off right from the get-go. That'd be fun. But, yeah, he's got a lot to learn, Alan. He's got a lot to learn, the way he's managed games this year. It's been...
No, and I was personally shocked, because one of the things that's kind of sticks out to me when you see McDaniel either in media sessions or the way he runs a game, he usually comes from a place of, I don't want to say cockiness, but like full confidence in what he's doing, what the team is doing. And then yesterday looked to me like the offensive game plan was scared. And I don't know how much of it was because Armstead's not playing. Now he's got Kendall Lamb. Eichenberg's back in the lineup. Brandon Shell's on the right side.
They didn't do a bad job. You did not lose because of the offensive line, okay? Right?
No, but the run blocking wasn't good. I'm not putting it on the offensive line, though. You're absolutely right.
When has the run blocking rarely is good. Once in a while, whenever it gets in a groove, the dude at the top forgets to keep using it. But I mean, pass blocking, they did the same thing they've done all year. They did all enough.
Especially without Armstead there. Yeah, no major complaints there. I would be nice to stop.
Then even with Little, they still were able to at least
correct.
be serviceable. You know what I'm saying?
I had no issue with it. Like I said, to me, the number one issue was the play calling was atrocious to me. Bridgewater, the pick 6 was bad on so many levels. And then when Skyler came in, it was like for the first time all year, more so than before, he looked completely overmatched.
Yeah,
and it may be stuff that Belichick was doing on defense. But he looked.
It's a great lesson for all of us. Ezukama, Skyler, and who was the other? Who? No. There was one more that had a really nice preseason. It wasn't Tyndall. Who am I missing?
Position?
Yeah, it was Ezukama. It was Skyler, and wasn't there another young guy that did all right? But either way, when you see them now, it shows you the enormous difference between preseason when nobody's scheming. They're not really looking for your negatives and your weaknesses, and they're not trying to expose you. And it's very vanilla, everything that's going on. It's a great opportunity to show that you have the ability that, hey, you get some we can work with. Braylon Sanders is the other guy.
Yep.
That Braylon Sanders has crapped in his pants, and he played well in the preseason too. And so all 3 guys shined in the preseason, shined in training camp. Hey. And then all of a sudden they haven't been able to see the light of day, or when they do play, they haven't played well. It's a nice, it's a nice lesson for all of us that, hey, in the preseason, somebody plays well, take it with a grain of salt. It just means that, hey, this is something we can work with now. Let's see what happens from here on out. In other words,
it basically shows you if the guys have the physical traits to succeed in the NFL, and we see that with Ezukama. But until he catches up here, he's not going to contribute. I mean, dude's been
clearly Tyndall must be so behind because they brought other guys that have skipped over him and guys that are special teams linebackers or whatever. And so that tells you that he must be, doesn't mean he can't play, doesn't mean he won't become a hell of a player. There's lots of guys like that they're not very effective in their first year or two. That happens all the time in the NFL. My God, Paul Soliai was absolutely useless for like 2 to 3 years. And then at the back end of his first contract is when the lights started to go on and he became, one hell of a player. So it happens, you know what I mean? But
with him, it wasn't so much grasping the nuances of the game as opposed to commitment to the craft. When he got serious, and I think it was Sperano sat him down and said, get your ass in shape or you're going to be out of the league pretty soon. And Soliai took it to heart and he became a complete stud.
He also had a weird technique when he first started. Remember, he used to line up. I've never seen that
sideways.
Yeah, and then finally they taught him to stand up, straight up on the guy, and he took off. But he had this weird stance the first couple of years. It was like odd. I remember one of a prominent player that told me right away, a defensive prominent player that told me, yeah, that guy ain't got it. And it's because that's what you see early on. And then eventually, he kind of figures it out. Next year or this offseason, it's a weird dynamic because you and I know Tua's going to be back. I mean, they're not going to get rid of Tua. But you've got to do a better job in the front office of finding actually a quarterback that could almost take his job or really compete for the job, or that somebody that is really capable of running that offense overall. You've got to really do it because of the injury history, unfortunately. So how do you handle that backup position next year? Because I can't even put Skyler there yet to be that backup. Now, when you look at the injury history of Tua, you got to figure whoever's the backup is definitely going to play, and it's got to be somebody that we can really count on. How do you get to that point? Because I'm thinking, okay, how do you convince a Garoppolo to come here when he's going to be offered a starting job in a crappy team from somebody, or Derek Carr or somebody like that? So how do you handle that part? Because that's super important for next season.
They also have no cap space. And here, one final thing.
You get great. They have no draft capital.
You also have other needs to create cap space. Here, I want to say one final thing about Teddy, though, because to me it wasn't performance based, but the fact that in his 2 starts he couldn't finish the game, that's obviously, and it's got to be a record. Tua's missed 4 games. The Dolphins have had to make a quarterback change because of an injury in those 4 games he missed. I mean, that's completely crazy.
No backup. None of their backup quarterbacks have been able to finish a game.
I mean, that's great. 4 games. That's crazy. So to me, that's more about that. And I had
and I thought Skyler got banged up on one play there. I was like, oh man, are you all right?
He did. I noticed it too. He took a shot and it was like he got up a little bit slow. Like, oh Jesus!
Oh, I was like, oh, bro.
The problem, and your premise is good. The problem is you got to find somebody who's not going to be looking to break the bank, because again, yes, you can create cap space, but the Dolphins have other needs. It's not like they can spend a ton on a second quarterback when you already have 2 on the roster.
They have to.
I understand, but I'm saying it's got to be a wise investment. And a couple of guys who like kind of semi come to mind, could be guys like Gardner Minshew, who maybe could succeed in that system, even though he had I didn't see the game, but he had crappy stats yesterday.
Yeah, he didn't play well yesterday, but I mean,
I saw one where,
all right.
I saw the pick 6 where he completely stared at the guy. Baker Mayfield, maybe, except now if he continue, maybe the Rams are going to bring him as an insurance policy for Stafford, and maybe he'll look at that situation and think, oh, I could become the starter there at some point. Jimmy G, like you said, is going to have a lot of, I think, competition for his services. The Jets are going to go be shopping for a quarterback in the offseason. That's one team right there. Carolina, probably another team.
By the way, kudos to Geno Smith. Did you see what he did to Zach Wilson yesterday?
Yes. Oh, he's always been a classy guy, though. Always been a classy guy, Geno Smith.
Always been a great dude. And for him to take that moment like, hey, yo, I've been here, bro. That's probably what he was telling him. Hang in there, stay strong, all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really, really cool for Geno Smith, even though I think Geno Smith is wired differently than this guy, but whatever. We'll see. Maybe this maybe this kid can grow up. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of Johnny Manziel I see in this kid that I don't know if he's gonna really figure it out. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. I don't know how he's wired.
So anyway, that's going to be tough. And interesting you mentioned Zach Wilson, because I can easily see Robert Saleh going back to Zach Wilson for the finale now that they're out of the playoffs. And again, this is a number 2 overall pick from a year ago. And if they can,
Mike White is that the second coming? Like some of our South Florida fans think that he's the second coming.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. He was great in the beginning because he wasn't Zach Wilson, and he made a couple of nice throws, and he was a better team player. And here's the other part too. He's another guy who maybe could have some success if everything around him is perfect. That offensive line is a complete nightmare. I don't know if you've ever seen the watch.
I know. I mean, they have also, like Miami, have had terror. I mean, Mekhi Becton, my God, that's been a disaster of a pick.
Yeah.
And I think he's so large that he puts so much stress on those bones and that body of his that he can't stay healthy, bro. I mean, and that is a large man. Okay, large man. But yeah, they've had also really bad luck on the O-line.
They lost Vera Tucker, who may have been their best offensive lineman. He's a stud. No, very good player. So, yeah. So Mike White has looked horrible, but again, let's not pretend like he's got a whole lot of time to make anything happen. But anyway, back to my original point. To me, it would be logic says they're starting Zach Wilson against the Dolphins, because if they would be crazy not to try every single solitary thing to salvage this guy, and they're out of the playoffs. So,
okay. Anyway. Well, guys out there, if you have extra tickets, invite every MILF possible. That's all I got to say.
There you go.
Invite the MILFs.
Distract them, right?
MILFs, little cut down shirt there. Have them wave at Zach every once in a while. Get his mind off the game. All that kind of stuff. So just in case, Dolphin fans out there, bring the MILFs to the stadium on Sunday. That's all I'm saying. If you want to help your team, bring a MILF. No, and if it winds up being Zach Wilson against Skylar Thompson, what do you figure the over-under is going to be? Like 32? Oh my God. Yeah. Well, right now it is, I think it was like 41 or something. I'll look it up again, but they have I think the Jets I think the Dolphins are favored in this game, which is amazing to me that the Dolphins are favored. To be honest, the way they played, lost 4 in a row or 5 in a row also. I know, but their defense is pretty freaking good, and so I just I'm terrified of poor Skylar playing against that defense, because he's a young guy, man. It's I almost feel bad for Skylar because they're putting him in such a tough position. You know what I mean? And it's hard for him to succeed because he's green, man. Really green. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, 2.5 right now. The Dolphins are favored. Over and under is 39.5 right now. And if something happens to Skylar, you're going to have a guy that's probably going to sign off on the practice squad this week. Well, there's no practice. I looked at the practice squad. There's nobody on the practice squad. No, correct, but they worked out 2 guys late last week. Kyle Lauletta and Jack Paul. Yeah, I'm going to say they signed Lauletta. I agree. Because Lauletta does have accuracy. He's not super gifted. That's the thing about Kyle. He doesn't really, because I thought he was one of those intriguing late round projects that you can bring in. I think that was it the Giants that drafted him, I want to say, I believe in the late rounds. And I thought he's one of those. I always like, whenever I go to these bowl games, these postseason bowl games, I always like looking at the fringe guys and saying, okay, well, he's got some ability. There's a guy you take a stab on in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds or street free agent and bring him in. I thought Kyle was one of those guys that you might be able to bring in because he's a smart guy and he's got some accuracy. We'll see what happens, because they are. Luckily, they worked out, those 2 guys. I would imagine that there might be another guy or 2 working out today, right? That would make sense. Because again, if, as the initial report, I think it was Pro Football Talk reported that Blvd's got a fractured finger, and that's problematic. Yeah, I'm with you there. Jason Sanders got his ass cut yesterday officially, right? Probably. Isn't the cap hit not bad or anything after this, right? I think it's not too bad or something. Yeah,
I haven't. I never checked it beyond this year. I checked it like during the course of the year when it was struggling early on. There was it wouldn't work. I think it was Marcel who tweeted out that there's no cap space hit if you cut him in the off season. At the very least, bring in a challenger. I mean, it's just no. And then you watch Daniel Carlson with the Raiders making like a 57-yard field goal, like it's nobody's business. I mean.
Well, this we talked about it last night. They had punting issues last year, and they found a punter. Yeah, brother, you got kicking issues? Go find yourself a kicker, and that's it, man. You should be able to should be able to draft one, or you should be able to sign one that's undrafted. You should be able to do something, in the offseason and fix that. But Jason Sanders, you have to move on from, right?
Yeah, I mean, based on his performance, yeah, you got a guy that unfortunately you haven't been able to rely on. And like I wrote yesterday, the Dolphins right now, the way they're playing, they don't have any margin for error. They can't afford to be missing. Granted, it's a long field goal, but there's a lot of kickers who make long field goals.
No. Nowadays, 51-yarder is not an unmakeable field goal. It's not. It's actually not a great accomplishment anymore. When we were young, holy shit, he hit a 51-yarder. Right, that's awesome. Nowadays, it's almost routine. I hate to say, unless there's swirling winds. And luckily, yesterday, freaking dead. It was wind had nothing to do with anything, and that thing just hooked. So
I mean, 83-year-old Mason Crosby hit a 56-yard field goal, for the Packers. So
but he's been Money Mason.
Correct.
Many years, and that is a beautiful thing whenever you're able to find that guy that can stay with your franchise for a long time, man. I mean,
those are not easy to come by, though. Those are not easy to come by because look around the NFL. How many would you say have been like really, really good for
Tucker,
Daniel
Crosby?
Daniel Carlson for a few years has been outrageous. There are not that many.
No. I know. But whenever you're able to find a Seabass, although they did, they drafted him in the first
round pick, yeah.
So in the long run, if I tell you the player becomes your all-time leading scorer, is that a bad? I'm not telling you the position. Now I gave it away already. But if I tell you I'm drafting this guy in the first round and he's going to become the franchise's all-time leading scorer.
But that's just volume, though. That's volume. Look at his career percentage. Is he even top 10 in the NFL all time in career?
I'm not sure. But I know he was kind of the start of the power kicker of more distance and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And in the end, it really didn't become a bad pick. Like, it was terrible at the moment, but you have him for 16 years. It's like, well, hey, dude. At least we didn't have to worry about that damn position for a long time until he got old and out of shape. You know what I mean? So to their credit, and remember, didn't they draft like the punter that same year or right after, or the year after?
Shane Leckler,
right in the second round, right? Mm-hmm. And again, he was
very good. Yeah,
he was a hell of a player for a while, dude. He was a hell of like when you would play them, you knew their kicking game was okay. You were screwed already in that area. You know what I mean? So it's weird if I tell you that. Like, it doesn't sound like a bad thing that your first round pick, no matter what position, becomes your all-time leading scorer. That's like, okay.
I'm not with you on that because you can get much more value. Now, if you're telling me Justin Tucker was a first round pick, I'd be like, okay, because he's won games. I don't know how many games Janikowski won, and I don't think his field goal percentage for his career was necessarily that outstanding.
He's been a part. Janikowski was part of a mess for most of his time.
I understand that.
I can't blame it all on him. Whereas Tucker has been actually part of a very good franchise with normally a struggling offense.
That's true. You're not wrong there.
It's so much, you know what I mean? But he is so good, brother. He's better than Janikowski.
Gee, you think?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, that guy is special, brother. He is special. All right, linebacking. that's got to be one of the priorities this offseason, right? To improve the linebackers. I love Duke Riley. I like him as a backup linebacker. I do.
Sure.
I think he's a terrific terrific backup linebacker, smart guy, the guy you want to have a beer with, a guy you want to talk football with. You know it. He's like you're around him, you're like, all right, this is a pretty cool guy, really smart guy, all that. But I think he's just one of those backup special teamers. And when I look at Ingram, I love him rushing the passer, but outside of that, he's very limited. The thumper, what's his name now? Landon Roberts, who will knock your pecker in your sock. Great in the run game, but he can't really do much else. Outside of that, he's a very limited linebacker. How desperately do they need to improve their linebackers?
Oh, I mean, a lot. And you didn't mention Jerome Baker, who's been a nice player, but he also got a big contract, and he's not playing anywhere near what you would expect somebody with that contract to play. I mean, he's just right now.
I told Marcel this yesterday, and maybe you'll agree with me or disagree with me on this one. The bigger problem for Jerome Baker is that he doesn't have the proper people next to him to take away the pressures of everything else that goes on in that position. He doesn't have a middle linebacker. It's a thumper that can go sideline to sideline and hunt running quarterbacks. He doesn't have a strong side linebacker that can really, carry the load against the run. And so now he's more of a weak side, pass rushing, a little cover, that kind of guy. If you're asking him to get a bunch of stuff to run and get tackles behind the line of scrimmage, that's really not his game. And I think that that's the problem. The fact that Chubb isn't doing his job, the fact that the linebackers that he has around him aren't doing their job, it kind of puts him in another position, almost that you're depending more out of him, and he's really not that player, unfortunately. I think he would look different with the proper players next to him taking off that pressure from him. I don't know what you think.
No, I don't get it. I don't let him off the hook. No? I just he's not a difference maker in the least. He was more so a little bit the last couple of seasons. Maybe because the personnel around him was better, particularly behind him. But to me, the best off the ball linebacker this year by far has been Roberts, who, as you mentioned, is limited, but he's made the most of what he's got. I mean, you mentioned just all he does is stuff to run. Yesterday he had a sack on fourth down when he just didn't.
Right, he can do a little bit of that. It's just you can't get him out in open space. He's just
I agree. But to me, for who he is and what he is, and again also for what you're paying him, I think he's had a very, very good season. Jerome Baker hasn't come close to matching the value of his contract. To me, he's been absolutely a jag.
Oh yeah, no, you have to part ways with him, and that contract's going into its third year.
He signed an extension. I think it was before last year. Yeah, I believe he's heading into the final year.
Yeah, so you might be able to get. They're going to take several cap hits, big time cap hits this offseason, in order to restructure stuff.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of them probably when it's all said and done. All right, what do you got going in Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out, my friend?
Well, I'm keeping tabs on the NFL. I already wrote something about the week 18 schedule games that have been announced and how they could that impact the Dolphins. How the NFL put the Kansas City Chiefs in a Saturday game when their outcome could impact Buffalo, Cincinnati, for example, and by proxy, other teams that are involved in the AFC is completely ridiculous to me. I cannot understand why the NFL did that, other than the fascination with Patrick Mahomes and ratings. I don't know. I don't get it. And then I'm going to do the usual day after the game stuff with the snap count observations, the 5 biggest plays, revisiting the biggest storylines, and obviously recapping what Mike McDaniel is going to tell us later this afternoon.
But you did answer your own question, right? Ratings at Mahomes. You did.
Yes, but even at that, Jesus.
It's not, but can I say something? It has nothing to do with the NFL.
Oh, correct. It's very possible.
TV company put a gun to the NFL's head saying, do this now. We're paying you billions. Do it now. This is what we need so we can make our money back. And That's basically what they're doing, bro. That's all it is, man. It's Mahomes, it's the Chiefs, it's prime time,
Yeah.
it's ratings, it's we can sell more money, more ads. That's all it is.
It's
dude.
also wrong, and it's also part of my Chiefs fatigue syndrome. I mean,
It is, and I get it, and I understand it. But when you're hot, they ride the Bulls and Michael Jordan. When you're hot, they ride the Lakers and Magic or whatever is going on, Kobe and Shaq. It's just the way it is, man. They're gonna ride it, and while Casey's got this magic going on with Mahomes, they're gonna ride that. They're gonna ride the Bills. They're gonna ride the Bengals. By the way, the Bengals are another sweetheart of the league now with Burrow and the magic that they do. So yeah, it is what it is. All right, what do you got going on in Sports Illustrated so they can check?
Told you 2 seconds ago. Did you already forget?
Anything else? Nothing else? That's it. All right.
I listed 5 things. That's not enough. I'm sorry. I'll talk.
You write 5 things in an hour.
That's a
good. What the hell are you talking about?
That's
5 things in an hour. You write while you're asleep, which is like really screwed up. I don't know if you guys know this. He has like this thing on his brain stuck there, and then it's just typing on the side. So when he wakes up in the morning, he's got a couple of articles already written. It's like he's cheating. Really,
cool, that would be really cool. That would be cool.
That would be cool, right? That would be cool. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Catch his work there at Sports Illustrated at alldolphins.com. Alan, we love you. We will talk to you later on in the week, my friend. Happy New Year.
You'll be good.
You got it. There you go. The great Alain Poupart. As always, getting it done with our EJDconstruction.com Miami Dolphins report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.